Hello everyone, my name is Vince Gauman and it is wonderful to be making another video again. Thank you for joining me today, and it's always wonderful to be in this beautiful forest that I love to walk in and make the odd video in. So what I want to speak about today is that what we are experiencing right now is what many people call a spiritual war. And one way to understand that is that we are, in many ways, being put in a position where we are calibrating to darkness or dark frequencies. And there are a lot of cosmic light rays coming in as well that are helping us calibrate to crystalline heavenly frequencies. And so the dark forces are working very hard right now, and have been for a while, to have us, like I said, calibrate to dark frequencies of fear, frequencies of hatred. And I would say those are the two big ones, fear and hatred. But I'm going to get to the heart of this in a bit, because it's going to culminate to something really important that I want you to know. But as you know, they've been doing this for a while. So for example, by, creating violent video games, or through the violent, toxic Hollywood industry, through that industry, they get us to calibrate to darkness, to calibrate to violence. Through the food industry. I learned recently that in the United States, there are 1,000 toxic ingredients in our food that are banned in Europe. And so all these ingredients are there to sicken us, and to lower our vibrations. But it's more than that. There's the fluoride in the water system, which lowers our IQ. That's now been scientifically proven. There's the geoengineering. There's all the barium and aluminum and polymers coming down from the sky. We can go on and on. And so what they're doing is they're trying to calibrate us to darkness. In fact, if we go back in time, further in time, if we go back to the 70s and the 80s, the CIA infiltrated the music industry, and they they hijacked the record labels, and they moved hip hop away from hip hop and towards gangster rap. So this is another example of trying to get people to calibrate to dark frequencies, to hatred, to fear, to violence. And prior to that, I think it was the Rockefellers around the 30s or the 40s changed the standard tuning from 432 hertz to 440. And so musical instruments were now being tuned, like guitars, for instance, to 440 instead of 432. And so that's moving music into discord. And so when people listen to that, the idea is that it moves the body and the mind into a disharmonic frequency. I'm a musician, and I personally don't notice it. I don't really notice it that much. I have a handpan, or I used to have a handpan that was tuned to 432. I have a new one that's 440, and I can't say I notice much difference. But the point is that there has been the intent for a long time to pervert our consciousness, to sicken us, to make sure that we're operating at a lower frequency of consciousness through all sorts of avenues. Now, the big one, of course, starting about 4 years ago, was the juice, as I'm calling it, right? The juice that they put in us. Now, what this juice does is that it makes biology synthetic. And what people are slowly bringing to the fore is that it's filled with what's called nanobots, or nanorobots, that are programmable. And in fact, in one syringe, I discovered recently that you can put 1,000 billion of these nanorobots in one syringe worth of liquid. And so what's happening is that as some of you may know, they're trying to connect us to an AI grid and ultimately to the AI God. They're trying to calibrate us to an AI digital world that's ultimately controlled by AI Central. And this is facilitated by the growing numbers of 5G towers, soon to be 6G towers, the growing number of satellites that are in the air. And so these towers, these satellites are creating a digital network that increasingly interfaces with an increasingly synthetic bio, an increasingly artificial bio that is being bioengineered through the juice. We are being the goal is to be remotely bioengineered through this AI network. So to be more specific, these nanorobots I've researched can on cue through AI command release a toxic payload that can cause us to be sick, to be disabled, to be dead. So on cue, a signal can be sent through the AI network that then triggers that is received by biosensors, and then a toxic payload is released, and then we become sick, disabled, or dead. Or what they want to do as well, from my research, is potentially release a drug. Remember, these nanorobots can be programmed, and so they can carry specific drugs, specific chemicals that then are released on cue. Remember, so what's happening is that AI, the goal is that AI, through what's been put in our body, collects our biometric data. So we are in a feedback loop where our biometric data is being fed back to AI, and then the AI scans that, analyzes that, and then sends back a signal according to what upgrades it perceives that we need. And so now we are merged into this, what's documented in UN documents. We're merged into what's called an AI world society, and we are full on what's called AI citizens in what's called the age of global enlightenment. So they do call that, it's in the UN documents. So we are AI citizens in an AI world society in the age of global enlightenment, which obviously has nothing to do with enlightenment at all. It's endarkment. So this is facilitated again by the 5G, 6G towers, by the satellites. It's a network. It's a digital network. And we are merged with that network. And once we're in our smart cities, that's the plan, is that we don't leave and that we do everything remotely. In fact, we're increasingly living in a virtual reality. And if we want to go travel to visit, say, relatives in Egypt, we do that virtually. So we're by the pyramids with our cousins, but we're meeting them, we're hanging out with them, we're looking at the pyramids, but it's all through virtual reality because they don't want us traveling. They want us in our open air prisons, in our smart cities, our 15-minute cities. But they want us fully plugged in. They want our biometric data to be constantly monitored, analyzed, and then through various electromagnetic frequency signals, we receive remote bioengineering upgrades. And those upgrades can move us towards greater transhumanism, where they can move us towards sickness and death. And so this is the plan. And I'm not saying this is going to go all the way. I've never said it will. I don't believe it will. So this is what I'm saying to you, is that they're trying to calibrate us, and they have been calibrating people, especially people who've received the juice, calibrating people towards hatred, fear, and artificial intelligence. So calibration means where it's like you're becoming harmonized. Harmonized is not the right word, but you're becoming attuned to that. You're moving towards that, especially when your biology is becoming more synthetic. At the DNA level, at the neurobiology level, at the brain level, you're becoming more and more synthetic. You're becoming increasingly merged with this digital artificial world. And so because dark works with inversions, it likes to invert everything. This is a complete diabolical and perfect inversion of what's holy and true, and that is actually happening, which is more cosmic light coming in and more people having crystalline light code activation in their body. Because along your biological DNA, along the full length of your DNA, which if strung all together, if all your biological DNA was strung together, one in front of the other, it would wrap around the earth 2 million times. So you have this incredible genetic universe that's fully coded with the codes of creation. This is your soul code. You are made in the perfect image and likeness of all that is, of God, of the Divine Mother, of the Divine Father, of Prime Creator. So these codes are laying nestled against your biological DNA, waiting to be activated. Most are not activated at this time. So when you experience DNA activation or light code activation, it's the inversion of what everything I just said. Instead of being upgraded through artificial source code, you're being truly upgraded with crystalline light code technology from true source, the source of God, the source of Goddess. See how that's a perfect inversion? And it's happening right at this critical time when we are at this very pivotal time when we move towards dark or we move towards light. We move towards a digital dystopia or we move towards the golden age. And we are moving to the golden age. The dark forces will not fully implement their age of global enlightenment, their fourth industrial revolution. It's not going to happen. But you see, they're doing the opposite. This is how diabolical it is. They're doing the opposite of what's true and holy and pure, which is upgrading our neurobiology through crystalline light code activation. You see, when your light codes activate, your neurals, you have sensors in your neurons that pick up that consciousness, that crystalline consciousness, and then it streams in your neurobiology or creates new neural pathways. You move along pathways away from fear towards love, away from shame towards love, away from fear towards safety. You're moving from darkness to light. You're creating new neurological pathways because the sensors in your neurons are picking up the consciousness that's been activated in your DNA through light code activation. So this is an inversion of having these nanorobots and their sensors pick up dark frequency that's coming through the AI web and upgrading you remotely. You see how there's an unbelievably diabolical inversion. So one is calibrating us towards light, love, truth, the truth of who we are. Another one is calibrating us towards darkness, fear, hatred, and illusion. One is trying to open us to true enlightenment, and the other one is trying to connect us to the so-called age of global enlightenment documented by the UN, the United Nations. So we have all these light workers, we have an unusual amount of master souls on this planet, and what they're doing is they're anchoring these cosmic rays. They're holding, they're frequency holders. They're anchoring them through their body, which is a stargate. Our bodies are stargates. They're holding these frequencies and they're broadcasting them. They're transmitting them across the world in what I call the Christ grid of light. If you don't like the word Christ, you can substitute Christ for Buddha. It's the Christ grid of light. It's a network of light spanning the world that is held together by awakening souls. And this grid, what it does is that it helps people who are a bit stuck, who are a bit lost. It helps people to dial into that network. It's the divine internet. It's the divine internet. And so people who are lost or searching or need support, people can sort of lift their antennas up and dial into that network, and they can suddenly make a new empowering choice that they wouldn't have otherwise. They may turn left when normally they turn right. They click here when normally they'd click there. They grab this book when normally they would grab this book, and suddenly they're moving more towards light. They're calibrating to higher frequencies. So what if all these 5G towers going up, 6G towers that are broadcasting these dark frequencies of fear and hatred, and that are trying to connect us to the AI God, what if these towers are an inversion of the human towers that are masters and light workers, which are holding and broadcasting these crystalline frequencies and creating a true network of light, love, truth, a true network. One is a digital network. Another is a divine network. You see how it's an inversion. Again, it's wonderful and it's diabolical. It is perfect. It's sad. It's destructive. There's so many words for it. But when you awaken to it, when you see it, it is quite mind-boggling. And so they're doing everything they can to create the opposite of what is increasingly happening on this planet, which is more and more light workers, more and more awakening souls are arriving on this planet, and they're holding more and more of these frequencies, and they're broadcasting them through their Stargate temple bodies, and they're being light towers. They're holding the divine network, which is a counter to the digital network that connects people to the AI God, whereas the divine network connects people to the true God. One calibrates people to fear and hatred and darkness and lies and illusion, and the other calibrates people to love, truth, to unity. But here's what I also want you to know, everyone, and this is really important. You see, what they're trying to do ultimately is merge us into one digital soup. They're taking away our sovereignty. They're taking away our individuality. They're blending us into a digital soup. They're making us a homogenous species. When you put the exact same juice into every single person, what happens? You're making them more the same, but according to AI specifications, according to UN compliance. That merging in towards a form of unity is the opposite of true awakening to oneness. You see, it's the same fundamental drive for unity, except they want us to merge with their AI God, and yet through true transformation, we awaken to, or through divine union with all that is. with the true God. Do you understand? It's the same fundamental drive. Collectivism, which has been a hallmark of all totalitarian initiatives, aims, fascism, communism, collectivism is moving towards what's called common will. Forget your individuality, it's what's best for the state. It's the Third Reich mind, the Nazi mind, the communist mind. Forget your individuality. You got to sacrifice your individuality for what the state wants. And we determine that as fascist communist leaders. We're going to merge you with that, and you have to give up your sovereign self. So they're doing that now at an AI level, at a digital level. It's merging us into a form of unity that is completely false and inverted. It's the same fundamental drive. That is the drive for divine union. That is returning to oneness. Awakening to the truth of yourself as all that is. And yet when you awaken to being all that is, you don't lose your individuality. You are still a unique fingerprint soul with your own unique soul code. Just like your DNA is uniquely coded, your soul code is uniquely coded. You are made in the image and likeness of God on all levels, on all measures. You're a perfect holographic mirror, but you're also perfectly unique. In the same way your biological DNA is perfectly uniquely coded, your soul code is uniquely coded. But in awakening through divine union, you remember yourself as all that is. But you're still uniquely you. So it's the same fundamental drive, everyone, towards unity. Collectivism, again, one of the hallmarks of tyranny, is an inversion of true oneness. So what they're doing now is they're doing everything they can through air, food, soil, propaganda, through the sexualization, racialization, transgenderization of children in the school system, through Hollywood, through so many means. They're trying to calibrate us to false unity, hatred, fear, illusion, to giving up our sovereignty for a complete, utter lie. Artificial, right? I mean, it's in the word. Artificial intelligence is artificial. It's a lie. And they're going to sell it as convenient. They're going to sell it as, the age of global enlightenment. So that's what they're trying to do. And our path is about calibrating to the light. And the most important way to do that is by going within and doing the work, doing your healing work, doing your empowerment work that calibrates you to your higher self, that activates your soul code and turns you into a true tower of power that contributes to the Christ grid of light. So when I do my online healing and activation ceremonies, this weekend on Saturday I transmit diamond light. On Sunday I transmit the holy consciousness of the willow tree. What I'm doing when people gather on Zoom, although people who can receive it even if they're not on Zoom, is I'm broadcasting through my Stargate body different fields of consciousness. I have over 70 ceremonies now. I transmit spirit animals, archangels, ascended masters, crystalline, all sorts of frequencies. What I'm doing is I'm broadcasting that from the high light realms through my body, and I'm supporting people to calibrate to that frequency. I'm supporting their healing and the activation of specific codes that are synonymous with the frequency that I'm broadcasting. So for instance, if I'm broadcasting diamond light, it activates your diamond light codes. Diamond light doesn't activate sapphire codes. Wolf activates wolf codes. It doesn't activate squirrel codes, right? So that's what I'm doing. And so my broadcasts are here to help people to heal and to create quantum space so more of their higher self can anchor in their temple body. So more light can be activated. And again, they can be powerful frequency holders. They can be a tower of power. And so they then support other people to calibrate to the growing amount of cosmic rays that are coming into the planet and bathing the planet and uplifting it. The dark forces are not going to fulfill their goal, as I said earlier on, but they're doing everything they can. And the biggest thing that they're doing is that it's the juice strategy. That is their biggest strategy. For reasons I already said, is they've duped huge billions of people into having themselves become artificially aligned, you could say that. So our responsibility is to do the work. And you can participate in my ceremonies. I'll put a link in the description. But I wanted to offer this perspective to you so you have a clear understanding of the inversions and the perversions that are taking place. Don't forget that live, spelled backwards, is evil, right? So dark works with inversions. Dark, the same people at the WEF, the same people who say they want to protect the environment most, are the ones who hate the environment most. That's how much of an inversion they are. They say, call 200,000 cows in Ireland because we got to stop the methane emissions from farts and manure, and yet they blow up the Nord Stream pipeline, which releases thousands of metric tons of methane gas. They're complete liars. They're complete liars. They're anti-life, anti-gender, anti-family, anti-nature, anti-biology. They're anti-Christ. They are the antichrists. They're live spelled backwards. And so we either calibrate to their game or we calibrate to truth. And so that's what this video is about. And I hope I helped you understand more clearly the larger macro perspective of what's actually happening right now. I've written a free ebook, which I'll link in the description. I link it in, I think, most descriptions and in my YouTube videos, and you're free to look at that book. I encourage you to go down just to the table of contents. It's fully linked. Every chapter, section, and subsection is linked. So you can just go to any section you want, and I go into a lot of detail around these topics and more in that free ebook. Otherwise, I'll put a link in the description regarding the ceremonies this weekend. And thank you all for listening and watching. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, etc., etc. And I will see you when I see you. Take care. Bye.